Hey everybody. So for this week's discussion post, I decided to take a break from my current line of research to focus on something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the invention of insulin. I am a type 1 diabetic now of 22 years, and so needless to say, insulin is a part of my everyday life. I am literally insulin dependent. For those of you who may not know, type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disorder that affects your pancreas. What happens is your pancreas does not secrete a hormone called insulin, which you need to process food, more particularly sugars. And so what happens is if you don't bring those sugars down, they get too high, and you could go into a coma and then eventual death. And so prior to the invention of insulin, which again was designed to bring those sugars down to a normal level, people who were diagnosed with diabetes had two options, and both of them were paths to certain death. The first one was quick, so you could continue to have the elevated sugars for about 2, maybe 3 weeks, and in that time you would obviously suffer from organ failure, go into a coma, and then die. Or you could catch your sugar if it was kind of mid-range, so maybe in like the 400s, definitely nowhere above that. And then, work to bring it down, and then from there go on a starvation diet where you did not consume a lot of carbohydrates and only about 400 calories per day. Of course, then you would be suffering the effects of starvation and lack of nutrition, so you would die within about a year or two. Either way, there was no hope for diabetics. So in the late 1800s, a couple scientists discovered that diabetes is a problem with the pancreas. And then in the early 1900s, specifically around 1910, another researcher discovered that insulin was the component that was missing. And so they ran these tests on animals to figure this out. But the most notable research was conducted by Frederick Banting and Charles Best, who were the inventors of modern day insulin. And so they were able to alter the chemical compounds of animal insulin so that it worked in humans. And then in 1922, they finally tested it on a 14-year-old boy who was literally hours away from death from diabetes. And within 24 hours, his blood sugar levels had come down to a normal level, guaranteeing him a much longer lifespan. Now, of course, he would have to continue taking injections, but it's better than the alternative. And so, of course, the newspapers took this story and ran because so many people were dying from diabetes and were not given any hope. And then all of a sudden, insulin comes along, and now the outlook or the prognosis for diabetes isn't so grave. So much so that even John D. Rockefeller donated about $15,000 of his own money for diabetes research and insulin manufacturing. Charles Best and Frederick Banting did go on to win the Nobel Peace Prize for medicine in 1923 because their discovery literally gave millions of people a shot at living again. And like I said, the newspapers described it as nothing short of a miracle. And I can attest to that, as I too was hours from death and then given a shot of insulin and okay within a few hours.